Here we are, folks. You can count on us. It's 8 o'clock Eastern time on a Wednesday night. Therefore, where are you and where are we? We're right here talking Miami football with Cam Underwood from State of the U. To get the best in Miami football coverage, you join us each and every week, but you also join Cam and the rest of the staff there at State of the U talking Miami football. An 0-2 team right now following another excruciating loss, this time to North Carolina on the road, coming back from 17-3 down to take a lead late, give up a 4th and 17 and lose it 28-25. That aside, Cam, how are you doing tonight?
I mean, in life, I'm doing well. Can't complain. Had a good workout at the gym. Just had a spicy tuna roll and a little bit of sweet tea. There's just a little bit left while I do the show before I dig into my actual dinner after recording and streaming here. But in a football sense, been better.
So I was just having a conversation with some Florida State guys on our Florida State 7 o'clock show. And of course, the Noles had an embarrassing, if there's such a thing, win in quotes. They did win the game in overtime. And therefore, there were comments made that, of course, Florida State at 1-1 has got to be better than Miami at 0-2. And this is not going to be the focal point of our conversation, of course, tonight. But I was pointing out that even at 0-2, I think Miami's played better football than Florida State. They've played two quality opponents. All right, let's dig into the North Carolina game. So I watched the condensed version, couldn't get the game. ACC network, don't get that. So I watched the condensed version, and I saw a team that got hit in the mouth right out of the gate. North Carolina obviously hit the big play out of the hand of Sam Howell to make it 10-0. But then a team that probably won the next 45 minutes of game time or so. And then obviously there was the last drive by North Carolina, which included the 4th and 17 conversion. So as you kind of look over the broad view before we grind it down to the granular broad stroke, this performance.
I'm encouraged by Jaron Williams. Obviously, he played very well, 30 out of 39 for 306 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Did fumble the ball a couple of times, but he recovered both of those. And we'll get into his from the macro to the micro. Excuse me for reaching there. I think that the offense definitely took a step forward. I think shuffling the offensive line was definitely the right move, and you can base that upon the result. So changing up the process did help the results moving forward. Excuse me. I forget to do that, bro. Every week I forget to turn off my phone. I'm sorry. Apologize. I think that the defense has some major problems. It was not helped by the fact that Amari Carter got ejected early in the game for targeting, which I don't like the rule for a guy who's 6'2", 205, and he's already in his crouch, but the quarterback slid and you hit him. Like, that's a textbook targeting. You're going to get called for that every time that happens. And again, like if you go back and watch that play, Amari Carter is crouching down, trying to go through Sam Howell's legs for like a dive through tackle, but he's a quarterback, so he slipped. He slid, excuse me. And then so with Amari Carter out, that didn't help things. Although I will say that someone that I have been very critical of, to the point that there are people who have talked to me about my criticism about this player. Robert Knowles was not bad. And I know you're listening to this, watching me say, what? I mean, look, he wasn't a game changer. Nobody's calling him Ed Reed or Sean Taylor. He's not out there changing the game in a positive way. But for somebody who was a walking touchdown for the other team when he played previously, in previous years, him going out there and just doing his job, and even if he didn't break up a pass, so he didn't intercept anything, he got out of here or got out on that field and made the play that was to be made. That is yeoman's work, And I know people are like, oh, well, you're lowering standards. Look, man, that's just, for him to do that and go out there and execute his job, I am very happy to see that. And that was not something that I was expecting. So I have to give credit where it was due. Now, again, I'm not saying that he single-handedly went out there and won the game, because clearly Miami lost, but Robert Knowles played a solid game. And he played a solid game in the snaps that he took in the Florida game as well. So, if I'm being loud about criticism, I have to be loud about my praise, even if it's just saying, look, league average, B-flat basic, doing your job, That's Robert Knowles. And that's a step forward, honestly, from where he's been. So I think that there are issues on defense. I think that there are still issues on offense. There are some things to like. Obviously, both running backs, the quarterback, Brevin Jordan, the best tight end in America. I keep saying it. Just like I told you that Joe Jackson was a cyborg from the time he was a sophomore in high school. And now he, was what, a 5th or 6th round draft pick, made the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to have a big role for that franchise moving forward. Look, I mean, certain things, they are just what they are. And it was comical that Brevin Jordan wasn't a 5-star tight end on 247 going as his senior year because he's only 6'3". So people are like, oh, he's 2 inches too short or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, the dude is the best tight end out. Like, he's the best tight end in the recruiting class. He was freshman All-American. He's leading the tight end, almost all tight ends in America in catches, receiving yards, yards per catch, touchdown, all that kind of stuff right now. Dude, come on, the proof's in the pudding. But I mean, so like I said, there are things to enjoy. There are things to hate also. You keep missing field goals. You keep losing games. You keep coming in, and maybe, I don't know if we're going to get here, but I do want to say this. Everybody talks about Miami being every opponent's Super Bowl. How they're always hyped up. They're going to come out. They're going to be hyped up. They're going to swing first. They're going to have this energy. They're going to come out hot, hot and hyped up and everything like that. And I saw somebody tweet, they're like, yo, Miami has to be ready for these games. They had to be ready for these teams, yada, yada, yada. Because they just need to do that. They need to be ready. And I said, yeah, but it's always been that. And game after game and year after year, Miami's on the back foot. Miami's not usually the team that gets out to 17-0, 17-3, 21-3, 28-7 at halftime. That's not the Hurricanes. It hasn't been for a while. And I think that needs to change.
So I'm trying to think of the Florida game. They hit you with the first touchdown of the game after you guys kicked a field goal. And obviously that was just a defensive battle where nobody really stretched the lead. You guys got out 13-7. That was the biggest lead, I think, in the game. Mm-hmm. Of course, what happened last week was 17-3 out of the gate by North Carolina. And when you're up 17-3 and they only had to throw 24 passes, that gives some indication of two things: that they were able to get into a mindset of running the football with a 14-point lead, and also Miami dominated. That might be a little strong, but played better than North Carolina did during like a 45-minute stretch.
No, I don't think that that's strong. Honestly, I mean, it was pretty dominant from after the first quarter moving on. I think it was like 157-5 total yards in the second quarter in Miami's favor, 10-0 in Miami's favor. They threw 25 times because they had that throwback pass, the double pass, or whatever. So they threw 25. But I mean, Sam, I'm still in the stats page because I like to leave the stats page up until we speak. If we're looking, Sam Howell, does it have what I'm looking for? It does. Yeah. 17.2 yards per completion. Like, they're taking shots. You know what I mean? Like, 4th and 17, you hit, for 22. And yeah, KC Kane fan, like my face, on the 4th and 17 comment that Mark made. It's inexcusable that you have the slot uncovered on 4th in the ball game. Because if they don't make that, Miami runs the ball, runs out the clock, wins the game. That's literally 4th in the ball game from a Miami perspective. And I don't want to hear about bracket coverage. I don't want to hear it because you still have the number one receiver. And if you're numbering receivers, for those who don't know, you start from the sideline and you number in. So 1, 2, 3, 4 coming towards the tackle. So you only have 2 on that side, but you leave 2 uncovered and you leave 1. I mean, 1 is, he's man-to-man, but you got your 2 right there, but you got Bandy, who you move inside to nickel, which I told you, everybody said that he's going to be at the nickel when you have 3 DBs or go nickel with 3 cornerbacks out there. But then you have him not playing man, and then Gervin Hall, you get him in a compromised situation because you got the 1 going vertical, so he doesn't know if I'm supposed to follow the 1 or the 2 and, come down on that. But then, obviously Bandy has inside leverage and you have to, account for the outside leverage. And for me, this is where a timeout should have been taken. And I know Manny Diaz, he got on the press conference on Monday and he talked about having all 3 timeouts and da-da-da-da. That was a time when I was screaming on my couch, You need to call a timeout. Call a timeout right now because the defense was not properly aligned. And you can see that because the slot receiver is 100% uncovered. Again, I don't want to hear about bracket coverage because if you have bracket coverage, then you're going to walk down Gervin Hall a little bit more. I don't know why his heels are at 22 on 4th and 17. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, yeah, I mean, there's things not to like. I mean, 17.2 per completion. Obviously, you pick on Bandy with the stutter go, hit him for 72 over the top, for a 10-0 lead there. But, I mean, still, those are only a couple of plays. I'm still in the stat sheet, so I'm going to tell you. Chunk plays is right here. They had 6 passes of more than 15 yards. 39, 62, 16, 36, 18, and 20 on 4th and 17. Like, bro, they're taking big shots. You got to do something. And I know that a lot of these guys are new. And yeah, Miami did have the number 1 passing defense in America last year, but clearly, even with talent, because there is talent in this defensive secondary, the performance needs to stand up. And Manny Diaz was asked, hey, are you still calling plays on defense? Because in the second quarter, it did seem like he took over play calling from Blake Baker because the way the defense played was diametrically opposed to what we saw in the first quarter. He said, no, Blake Baker's the guy. And honestly, more than missing me calling those plays, those guys over there are probably missing Jaquan Johnson in that secondary. Jaquan Johnson, rookie, who's now playing for the Buffalo Bills, the highest graded player in the NFL in its entirety in preseason football. That guy who never misses an assignment, damn near never missed a tackle. You're missing those guys. So, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that Miami dominated the rest of that game. Except for it's not a 45-minute game. So the second through fourth quarter is not the only time that you can dominate. I mean, I know it's going back to 2001. Joaquin said dominate. He didn't say, okay, dominate a couple plays here and there. He said dominate because that's what Miami Hurricanes do. So you cannot wait. You cannot spot them a lead on the road in a game where they're hyping everything up. You just can't do it.
Mr. All About You, appreciate the contribution on the Super Chat. I want to remind everyone that the Super Chat is available for you. Cam Underwood stated you every Wednesday night here at Miami Hurricanes Live.
I'm going to jump right in. I'm sorry. George, a Florida fan by his avatar, says, if I was a Miami fan, I wouldn't be worried about anything. Either trust Manny or you don't. But don't change your mind every couple of weeks. Come on, get real. I'm not off of Manny Diaz being the head coach. I know there's a response to a couple of people who said, Manny Diaz is in trouble in the comments. He's responding to that. But I don't care about the labor pains. I want to see the baby. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear about, North Carolina only had a 31% chance to win by all these metrics post-game. Like, they weren't supposed to win that game. I don't care. They did win the game. And a wise man once said, you play to win the games. So while there are things to enjoy, while there are things that you look forward and say, Jaron Williams completing 75% of his passes, Pro Football Focus has him at an adjusted completion percentage based upon distance of throw and situation at 85.1%. Yo, that's awesome. I am excited about that. I do think that Manny Diaz can be a good coach. I do think that Manny Diaz needs to do some things better. I think that operationally, we did see some progress from the first game to the second game. We didn't have any false starts. I think we only had one holding penalty, again, negating another big Cam Harris run. But I'm not off of Manny Diaz as the head coach. But yet and still, you got to win games, period. Pointblank.com in the story. I don't care. 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 So don't sit. I mean, yeah, and maybe some of the people in the comments and some people in the chat, maybe they're going a little bit hard on that. But you need to have a positive result. And a positive result in the game of football is winning the game, come hell or high water. If people want to go back to 2017, and Mark, we talked about this every single week, squeaking by. Miami was only up 7-3 at half, or 7-6 at half at North Carolina in 2017. Came out of the half, hit Jeff Thomas over the top for 72, took a 14-6 lead and never looked back. That Georgia Tech game when we hit Darrell Langham lying on his ass for that catch, that bobble ball, tip ball, get out of there, 25-24 win. Florida State that same year, all these things that are just by the skin of our teeth. Look, we could overlook, and a lot of people did overlook, a lot of glaring issues. Why? Because you won. So here, I'm not going to sit here and ignore issues because we lost. So all this stuff, I say all that to say there are things to like. There are things not to like. But the thing that I'm most displeased with is the fact that Miami stands 0-2 after 2 games. And with only a 7-point aggregate margin, losing by 4 to Florida, losing by 3 to North Carolina. Look, I get that Miami's close, but close ain't what we're about. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, if this was New Mexico State, 7-11 in the last 18 overall, which is the record in the last 18 games. Go and look it up. 7-11 overall for a team that's been moribund for 20 years. Sure, that's fine. 2-7 in the last 9. What? Like, this is the University of Miami Hurricanes. This is not good enough. So I come back to the point that we have to win games, regardless of the optics, regardless of what looks good and Jaren taking a step forward and the running backs doing da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't care. If we don't win games, all that's for naught.
There is a difference, obviously, when the head coach is a first-year head coach versus maybe a third or fourth-year head coach. So I'll take Butch Jones at Tennessee for an example. Recruited great, started to field teams that people were projecting preseason to be really good. And then he had a season, one in particular, in which they lost at the gun to an Oklahoma team that made the playoffs, Arkansas when they were good, and somebody else, Florida, on the Felipe Franks, Hail Mary. And when you go through that once, or maybe go through that a second time, you can say, okay, the program's much better. We can see it on the field. It's obvious they're competing against teams that they haven't competed against in years. But the result's not what we want, but we can see the building blocks. And then when it comes like third or fourth year, then that's when you say, okay, enough's enough. And obviously this coach can't get it done. But we're through 2 games with Manny. So obviously he's building a culture and a program and implementing his system on both sides of the ball in different ways. So I take the close losses as being somewhat of a positive. But if this was next year, I wouldn't. I know it's not a positive. I know there are no moral victories, but in evaluating a coach and a new program, it's different than if you're still doing this in year 3.
I agree. And there is also the point to be made that the schedule still lines up favorably. Now, the thing about that is North Carolina was one of those teams in a full-scale rebuild that everybody counted as a win. So how favorable is it really if a team that, come on, let's be real now. Everybody saw Miami beating North Carolina. North Carolina even saw Miami beating North Carolina. And then they get that win. Whoa. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, does it look better than getting blown out 35-3? Sure. Fine. I'm not going to debate that. But, I mean, good is not good enough. Close is not okay. We're not playing hand grenades or horseshoes. We're not. We're playing football. And I'm not about close. I'm not about almost. I'm not about – you got to win. And obviously this team is back to a point where they're struggling to figure out how to do that, and that needs to change quickly.
You did have a quarterback who got the ball after a shocking score that gave North Carolina the lead with about a minute 5, right around a minute left, and did get you in field goal position. It was a tough field goal, but it was a makeable field goal. What, 48 yards?
49, yeah.
So you've got a young quarterback who did, and I don't remember the sequence of plays that got you in field goal range, but he did get you there.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. He did. But, and again, Jaren Williams, I thought that he played pretty well. Obviously we got to be a little bit better on ball control or protection, if you want to call it that, but just not putting the ball on the turf. And Miami was lucky to get both fumbles that he had back and recovered. But yeah, again, 30 for 39 passing is great with a couple throwaways, which was a development. Remember, we talked about that from the Florida game, how the sack count got inflated because he didn't get rid of the ball. And then a couple drops in there as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think that he played well. The thing, Nate 561, I see your question. We get to it in a minute. The thing with Jaren Williams and the offense is there need to be more explosive plays. There needs to be more verticality to the offense. Obviously, when you look back at the Florida game and even sometimes in this game, the quick passing game is there. And Jaron Williams is going to put the ball into a tight window. I mean, that touchdown to KJ Osborne, woo, boy, listen, that was a dime. And that shows you, again, his arm is strong enough to make pretty much every throw that you need. But, I mean, you're talking a hitch step, look to the right. Woo, boy, listen, that was awesome. But everything was just, you're going east-west so much. You know, you're a quick bubble here, and you throw the now route to Jeff Thomas. You hope that he's going to break a couple tackles and get 15 on that. He only gets 5. Okay, that's cool, whatever. But it's a lot of going sideline to sideline right now. There's not a lot of, well, where are we? Here we go. There's not a lot of this. You're not going up the field. And that needs to change. And it's funny, on that next to last drive, I said, a vertical shot to take the top off the defense would fit awesomely right now. And on the ACC network, because I have YouTube TV, it's streaming. So I'm like 20 or 30 seconds behind. And everybody hopped in my mentions. They're like, oh, you called it. And I'm like, I don't know what I called because I haven't seen it yet. But that was right when he threw up the seam to Mike Harley for 39 yards, literally after I tweeted that. I'm like, dude, listen to me now, because I know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, there is that. But that was like one play. Everything else is like intermediate, maybe 12-yard pass that maybe you break a couple of tackles and you get up to 20, with some yak, up to 20 or more. But I really want to see, I don't care if it's a drop back, I don't care if it's shotgun, I don't care if it's play action, but like we need to have a vertical threat and not like a Brevin Jordan up the seam threat, not like a, hit it between the linebacker and safety. I mean, take the top off. Jeff Thomas, Mark Pope for 70. I need those. Or at least the reasonable expectation that could happen. Because if you saw with North Carolina, they hit that double move early for 62 and a tutty. And then later on, including on 4th and 17, which again, coverage is terrible, the threat of that is there because you already did that to them. It's once bitten, twice shy. So, okay, we're going to not play that same kind of coverage again because this team has already shown that if we do things in this kind of a way, they're going to go over the top and not just attempt it. They're going to hit it and change the scoreboard. And Miami's offense does not have that element of explosion to it right now. But the playmakers are there. I think the offensive line is in a better spot after this game than it was the week before. Move in Ja'Kai Clark to right guard, bump out Lon Scaife to right tackle, take John Campbell, put him on the bench. Look, maybe there's a future for you. Obviously, I think he's going to be in the rotation. But starting right now, I don't think that's going to be a fit just from what we saw against Florida. Even though you leave a true freshman still at left tackle, so that's awesome for him. So, yeah, I mean, the vertical explosion element of the passing game does need to be there. And that might affect in a negative way Jaron Williams' completion rate because, look, short and intermediate passing, obviously, the kid is gifted. But you really got to have – we're not even threatening that third level of defense in the passing game, and that is what needs to change. So, yeah.
We talk Miami football every Wednesday night. And do we take phone calls? Well, J-Love's been all over the phone calls tonight, and somebody just called the line. So we haven't taken calls in the past. Maybe that's something we could do in the future, but understand that the transmission from where I am to Cam may not work. I think we've tried it in the past. There's a delay, and it just doesn't work. So we can try it at some point. And folks, at some point, we will take calls and do it the right way. I bought this audio equipment. I hooked it up. Nice. It's working correctly. So we will do that at some point. But we appreciate if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the chat, and I will pass them on to Cam.
And speaking of which, getting back to the question from Nate 561, I think it was, about Trajan Bandy. Trajan Bandy played a poor game against North Carolina. There's just no two ways about it. So, yeah, he played a great game against Florida. I mean, he played a really strong game. I think he was one of our 3 stars from the Florida game. Just was all over the place in a good way and everything. Against North Carolina, that same Trajan Bandy didn't show up, unfortunately. And that had a negative effect for Miami's defense. Obviously, the touchdown, was on him. The first touchdown of the game on that double move, missed a couple tackles. Obviously, whatever you want to call that coverage on 4th and 17, bracketed, missed coverage. If somebody was supposed to be a man-to-man, whatever it was, he was right there at the point of the play, and that's not good. So, yeah, I think that he would tell you that he expects to play a better game. I think that even coming off of the first game of the year, he would say that his demonstrated performance is to be better than that. And even if you go back to last year. But yeah, Trajan Bandy did struggle last week. He wasn't the only one. But yeah, since you asked about that directly, that is kind of where we are.
So a number of comments regarding so JT Sounds joins us all the time and has a number of comments to make.
Yeah.
And he's asking about I think this might be a little bit too early to be expecting decommits and flips.
Recruiting goes 24/7, 365. Dead period, live period, contact period, whatever. I mean, these guys, these coaches are recruiting. These players are being recruited all the time. Andrew Ivins from 247, he wrote a piece saying that two guys who other schools are very strongly pursuing, well, three guys who other schools are very strongly pursuing are Jaden Francois, safety commit from South Dade. He has openly said that he is interested in Ohio State while he is 100% committed to Miami. So he plans to take a visit there. And that or other teams, if losing continues, then, all bets are off. So we'll see. But he's been linked with OSU throughout this process, even when he committed to Miami. So I expect that to be a fight for a while. Additionally, Romeo, what's his last name? Oh, man. I forget.
Plays what position?
Defensive end.
We're not talking Romeo Finley, are we?
Not Romeo Finley. He's on the squad. Oh, geez. I'm so sorry. I'm usually more prepared than this, even for recruiting off the top of my head. Romello Height, excuse me, from Dublin, Georgia, 4-star defensive end. Teams are going to come at him, especially because he's starting off his football season in a strong way. Additionally, even though he maintains the fact that he is firmly committed to Miami, the University of Georgia just likes collecting running backs. So they even sent an assistant to a couple of Donald Chaney Jr.'s games already. So they can have, I don't know. They collect 5-star running backs up there. Just like people collect stamps. It's crazy. They already have 2. They have 2 or 3, and that's off of 2 or 3 each of the last couple of years. Like they have so many 5 stars, highly touted 4 stars, whatever you want to call it. But I guarantee you this: if Don Chaney were to flip to Georgia, he would be back to be a 5-star ranked player. Bet that. Take the 401k, take your mortgage, put it on red on that one. I'm telling you, I'm not wishing it, and I hope that it does not happen. But if he were to flip to Georgia, I guarantee you today, September the 11th, 2019, 8:31 p.m., I guarantee if he flipped to Georgia, Donald Chaney Jr. would be a 5-star. Bet it.
Gee, Busto, we actually invite all college football fans to join the chat. Any of the shows. Jump in, trash talk. Just don't make it personal. Trash talk. Do whatever you'd like. All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is our Miami live stream. We've done this 25 consecutive weeks, mostly with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Please join him and the rest of the staff right there on SB Nation, State of the U, and join right back here. And, of course, we typically get this rolling in terms of the number of people in the live stream by about halfway through. So what you do is you wait for the video to post. You go back and watch it in its entirety. If you want my college football predictions, you go to the link down in the description section below of any of the videos, Voice of College Football. Go to the link, get my predictions, 31-20 against the spread the first 2 weeks. That'll make you some money at 61%. And Cam, I got to stop picking those games. So I just blindly, I don't target games to boost my record. I just pick all the top 25 games, plus any game of relevance that I think exists outside the top 25, like a Miami, North Carolina game.
Right.
But I've always had the philosophy that it's most difficult to pick those games that are roughly 3 touchdowns and above the spread, because you don't know who's going to be on the field in the fourth quarter. You don't know how hard they're going to be playing. You don't know if the coach is going to play the second team or the third team. And if you're
Yep.
talking about a team like Georgia or Alabama, their second and third teamers are better than the other teams anyway. They might even be playing harder because they've got some motivation to get in there and kick some tail. So that could be a factor. You don't know if the coach is going to play full throttle, let's beat them into the ground 65-0, or going to lay off and say, hey, we give up a couple touchdowns. So you don't know what the play calling is going to be like. Therefore, my 15-9 against the spread last week was 3-6 in games over 21 points, and 12-3 in the games that were competitive.
Well, yeah, maybe or just reevaluate your large line betting paradigm, I guess. But
there it is.
Either way,
there it is. So we invite you to join the super chat and join and contribute in all the ways that you know how. Share the videos, like the videos, and of course, tons of comments in the live chat. Looking for anything?
Well,
notes,
while you look,
jump in.
Yeah, while you look, let me circle back to the previous question about recruiting, because I don't think that I answered it fully. Those are three guys who might be on Flip Watch. Miami is, and again, in case you're just kind of fast forwarding through, that would be Donald Chaney Jr., Romello Heighton, Jaden Francois. I talked about it more. I'm not saying that they're going to flip imminently. I'm just saying those are guys that we're watching, but you had to watch everybody from every team. So I know that, obviously Miami's going after a bunch of guys to close out this class. The thing about it is, you really have to lean into the winning, and the winning has to start now, because people want to say Saban was 7-6 in his first year. That's when he got that legendary recruiting class, yada yada yada, boomba, that set them on this path that they are currently on. I don't think I know for a fact at 7-6 Miami's not going to get that kind of recruiting class from Alabama 2008. That's not going to happen. So especially with the schedule lining up the way that it is. And again, maybe we need to reevaluate the strength of the schedule. But honestly, Miami's still going to be favored in pretty much every game. I think it's going to maybe be a 1 point, 1.5, 2 point something for Florida State, maybe in their favor just because it's up in Tallahassee. But you really have to win. And that is going to be part of the process. It is. It's that tangible proof of concept that I've talked about so long. It's the last rule in the recruiting rules that I wrote last summer, but it is arguably the biggest. Like I said, we play these games to win them, and you have to do that, and you have to get guys who want to be here, and hopefully you spin that forward, and that's how you get better guys and yada yada, all on down the line. So, I mean, I'm not saying that this class is going to fall apart right now. I'm not going to say that we're in dire straits. Obviously, 0-2 is not where we want to be. I think that from the outside perspective of pretty much everybody, it is a little unsettling, especially, if you look at the line of recruits or the lineup of recruits and the class as it currently is, constructed. But there are ways to keep this class together, maybe even add pieces, but it has to start with winning, and it has to start on Saturday. And I know that it will, because it's Bethune-Cookman. So, let's be real about it. But these things do have to happen now.
Got a comment coming in from 904 Hurricane. Any thoughts on Hodges? Rumor has it realist George will be hard-pressed to get playing time behind him.
Yeah, I saw that same report that the coaches were displeased with realist George's snaps in the Florida game, and then they put freshman tight end Larry Hodges at fullback, and he played like a bunch. I mean, he played 18 or 20 snaps, I want to say, in the North Carolina game at fullback. And every time I was like, that's 81 at fullback? Okay, yeah, all right. I think that he's more athletic than is realist George. I think that realist George is bigger. He's heavier. But I think that that's a good position for Larry Hodges. Obviously, he's a very athletic kid. He plays tight end, played at a Tampa Chamberlain or Tampa Jesuit, I think. But he was, jumping over guys, catching touchdowns in high school, all these kind of things, running around from the slot, from wide receiver. So he has a level of athleticism that I think, and foot speed, agility, that realist George might not have. So yeah, if he continues to play the way that he did, and maybe even just adds a little bit of weight and functional strength as a point of attack blocker, I think that can be a good spot for him, and he did well. So realist George, look, I know he was the number one fullback in America in the 2019 recruiting class. 2018, excuse me, because he redshirted last year. But yeah, you got to step up, buddy. So I mean, again, this is this is a performance-based industry, So I don't really care about who does the job as long as the job gets done. And at this point, it seems like Larry Hodges is doing the job better. So, don't get bitter, get better. Don't be mad that you're not getting playing time. Focus on developing and doing what you need to do so that you can earn your way back into playing time. But 904 Hurricane, I think that you're right at this point. And again, going off of everything that I've heard and all the reports that I've read, yeah, Larry Hodges definitely has nudged his way ahead at fullback.
I tracked Justin Tatavio's rundown and his breakdown of the game on State of the U.
Nice.
And then I saw some comments in the comments section dealing with the linebacker play.
Yeah.
That I've always, based on your insight and from watching 7 or 8 to 10 games per year, I'm somewhere in that range. I'm not going to see Bethune-Cookman, but I watch North Carolina, I watch the Florida games, I watch the ACC games and the big games. That the linebacking core might be a little bit overrated, or that it hasn't progressed since those guys came in as freshmen, with Shaq Quarterman being targeted by a lot of people in the comment section as being the number one culprit of certainly being a really good player, but maybe not progressing throughout his career.
Yeah. I think that Quarterman and Pinckney definitely stepped up more against North Carolina than they did against Florida. I thought they were quite bad against Florida. But yeah, those are your leading 2 tacklers from this week's game. 8 tackles for Pinckney, including a sack, and 1.5 tackles for loss. Shaq had 6 tackles, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss. I don't really think that they missed too much. I think that Shaq got picked on a little bit in the passing game, maybe 1 or 2 passes. And then Hurricane Lotso is saying, yeah, sometimes he sets up tackles for the safeties by doing, what he does, and there's somebody behind him to clean it up. That is true. But yeah, I would say that, these guys, I would say to start the year that the linebacking core has regressed from where they were last year. And if Mike Williams is correct, I'm not sure that I agree, but he says Quarterman had his best season as a sophomore in 2016. Wait, 16,
Freshman.
17, 18. Freshman, excuse me. I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't agree with that. His freshman year is the best for any of the linebackers. Regardless of which season you believe to be their best, I don't think that they started off this year as good as any of those. Romeo Finley, however, oh boy, man. Most improved player on defense last year, absolutely just balling this year. Made a couple tackles in space where I'm in my house, just pumping and screaming because, look, if he doesn't get that guy on the ground, there's a guy running up the sideline like it's Kadarius Toney in the Florida game. But he did get the guy on the ground. So I do think that Romeo Finley has been the best guy at the linebacker, that second level of defense. And he had a couple times of coverage, like, on a wheel route or a seam route where he's just perfectly in phase, perfectly in step. Look back, hand up, boom, PBU, what's up? You're not going to mess with me. Like, I'm fast enough to run with anybody because I'm really a safety playing this outside hybrid kind of position. So there's that. But yeah, Pinckney and Quarterman did step up more than they did in the opener in last week's game, but there's still, miles to go before we sleep. So says Robert Frost. So there's that. Somebody in the comments saying multiple times, hey, move Amari Carter to middle linebacker. I don't know. Maybe. I thought he did decent in the secondary before he got ejected last week. But he does have that kind of physicality. He's 6'2", 205 right now. You put on 10, 15, 20 pounds and have some of a similar athletic profile that could be very advantageous. So we'll see what happens with him.
Got a comment from JT Sounds. Loves to make some comments and questions and fill up the live chat.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for Bubba Bolden to make an impact on the secondary when and if.
Bubba Bolden's mother, Breezy, say that 7 times fast. God, I know, right? She got on Twitter and quote tweeted a screenshot of an article where they're saying somebody said like, oh, they're basically like waiting to hear back. It might happen. I forget who reported it, so I'm not going to call out anybody. But they were basically saying it'd be sometime in October, like that first game in October. She quote tweeted it and said, yes, the NCAA wanted Bubba Bolden to have 1 full year, or calendar year, in residence elsewhere before being eligible at Miami, which means October the 6th, he would be eligible because that's the date upon which he left USC. So that would put him then in line for the Virginia Oh, yeah, for the Virginia game on the 11th, because that would be Sunday the 6th, which would be the day after the Virginia Tech game, is when he would be cleared and eligible to hit the field for Miami. If that holds true, based upon what his mother said the NCAA's communication to them was, then that's what it is. It's for the October 11th Friday night game against Virginia. I am hopeful that he's able to step in. He's a full participant in practices. He's acclimated and everything. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I saw this comment on the screen, which, oh boy, I'm about to go in. But yeah, so
I figured
Bubba Bolden should be around, again, according to what his mother said the NCAA told them, that family, for the October 11th game against Virginia on that Friday night. Now.
So, don't kill me, please. I'm just a vibe. Well,
no, hey, just a vibe. I'm about to kill it. Like, I don't care. Call me whoever you want to, but I'm about to kill that vibe. The comment, my friends and fellow Hurricanes fans, Miami haven't been relevant for nearly 2 decades. Leaving the Big East was a big mistake for your program. Opinions, which is semantically the same as thoughts, which I hate as a question, but whatever. But I will offer you my thoughts and opinions, Mr. Vibe, who's about to get killed. Miami is always relevant, period. And I see that you have a Clemson avatar, so you're smelling yourself right now because Clemson is on top. Clemson are the big dogs and everything. And as somebody who was at Miami from 2000 to 2004, I can tell you that we've been there and I lived that. You know what I mean? Lost the second game of my freshman year and then into game 7 at North Carolina, by the way, in 2004, my senior year. Like, I've been there. I see that. Or that was my 5th year. Well, yeah, lost game 7 of my senior year and then lost a little bit more in my 5th year when I was student teaching. Either way, everything comes around. So I get that y'all, want to talk stuff now because you're on top. But first of all, don't ever in your life sit here and call Miami irrelevant. Don't do it because you look dumb. Okay? We start all the traditions that people want to get. If you want to put the 4s up before the 4th quarter, who started that first? Miami. You want to come through the smoke entering the field. Who started that first? Miami. We had the longest winning streak still at home in NCAA history. We have 5 national championships to not that many for Clemson, if you want to be real. Okay. Every time that Miami is on television, Miami moves the needle. The numbers bear that out. Whether Miami is good or bad, people love to watch Miami. And people, hey, I don't care if you love it or love it to hate it, but either way, you're going to watch it. That doesn't happen for irrelevant programs. Okay. And yeah, okay, if you want to talk about, really, it's about winning and it's not about you use the word irrelevant and words mean things. Okay. So don't ever in your life sit here and call Miami irrelevant ever again because you look dumb and you're wrong. Now, to the point of Miami not being good enough and losing more games than they should, we can have that conversation. Do I think it was bad, a unwise move to the ACC from the Big East? Absolutely not. We had a lot of things that did not necessarily go our way. But I'm not going to sit back and then say this is bad because Miami would not be in the position that we are nationally if we were still in the Big East. You know what I mean? Like there's what's the name? Notre Dame as an independent. They're the one team who has that kind of cachet from, just the hundreds of years they've been around and everything where they don't have to be in a big conference. Miami was not going to get to where they are. In general, I'm talking academically, I'm talking musically, I'm talking, football, basketball, baseball. I don't think that any of the sports would be where they are without having taken that step forward into the ACC. So do I think that was a bad move? No. Do I think that things could have gone better along the way? Absolutely. But to sit here again and call Miami irrelevant, don't do it because you look stupid and you sound dumb. And I can't wait because the day is going to come when Miami beats Clemson. I'm not going to say it's going to be this year. It might not be next year. But it's going to happen. And then I would be stupid to say Clemson's irrelevant just because Clemson had a 4, 5, 6 loss season, which again, I know that you're riding the high of Dabo Swinney in this golden age of your program. So you think that's not possible. Trust and believe. I thought that at one time too. because we lost one game my freshman year and didn't lose again until my senior year at Miami. And I thought we were always going to be that. And guess what happens? Things change. So I'm not going to sit here and denigrate your team or your program for what you guys have built. But you're also not going to sit there and denigrate the University of Miami. You're not going to call us irrelevant because you're wrong. You sound dumb and stupid. And there's going to come a day when we get back and we get that get back. And again, I know that it was a positive in general for the program, that 58-0, where you got Al Golden fired. But that doesn't mean that retribution won't ever come. I think that was a positive step for the program to get him out. But that negative event of 58-0, oh, trust and believe. I was there. I sat there that whole day. I sat there in the press box and I counted people in the lower bowl. I said section 125, 8 people. Section 127, 3 people. I did that the entire second half. I sat there and watched every single play of that. You think that I don't remember that? You think that this program in general won't remember that? Just like your blogger wanted to remember when I made fun of y'all for that 70-2 in the Orange Bowl against West Virginia when I was there watching the former Miramar High School kids run up and down that field and they just scored again from that. And I asked about that before the 58-0. And then he actually sent that back. He said, don't even print this response. I don't want to talk about that. I printed it anyway, but you want to say that so you have that memory from there to take retribution for? And that wasn't even us. That was West Virginia. We ain't nothing to do with that. Trust and believe. The day will come when we whoop that ass, and I will be here, and I will enjoy it. So again, don't call Miami irrelevant. Call us bad. Say we haven't won as much, but don't say irrelevant because you sound stupid and you look dumb.
So there are certain comments that are made by fans and viewers that I jump on, and I want a definition of. Relevant, I've got a pretty good handle on that one in the same realm that Cam does, but there are all sorts of this person's overrated, that team's overrated, they're underrated. That one comes to mind, but there are several others. So I've jotted down here, relevant, question mark, who and why, who has made themselves relevant by winning Clemson, who is just relevant regardless. And I am going to make it a task of mine to kind of figure that out, sift through it, look across the nation, and produce a video on that topic myself, which of course is always up to debate. It's not because I think that I can lay down the law on relevancy across college football, but I will do my homework and I will certainly give it some thought and give it a good logical conclusion.
My general thought is this: even when they're bad, are you still talking about them? If yes, that's relevant. USC missed a bowl game. Do we still talk about them all the time? Yes, relevant. Miami, been pretty average at best, except for 2017 in the recent, past. Still talk about them. Everybody's still watching them. ESPN still putting up all the GIFs and screenshots and metrics about the ratings every time that Miami is on television. Relevant. Whether you like it or not. Michigan, when they were, look, Brady Hoke, Rich Rodriguez, terrible, horrible, dumpster juice. Everybody's still watching them. Everybody's still talking about them. And I'm not even saying that just because I'm a native Michigander, but was everybody in the college football world still apprised of what was going on in Ann Arbor, Michigan? Yeah, relevant. That's where it comes from. Not just because you're the hot boys, just because you win. And you have people who are teams that, and we're going to get back to Miami in a second. I get it. But, you have teams like Oregon, whose relevance was born of things other than winning, like being funded by Phil Knight of Nike and having all the swag and all the different uniforms and cleats and da-da-da. Sure, that matters as well. But in a general sense, with absent winning, absent being in a chase for a championship of some kind, do you still know what's going on there? Are you still aware of and talking about and viewing that situation? Yes, that team is relevant. And whether you like it or not, that is and always will be the University of Miami on that list.
Good stuff from Cam Underwood, State of the U. That's why we bring him on. So we break down Miami football and, of course, the personnel and the plays on the field, but also delve into what's going on around the conference and the nation and questions such as which was just brought up and comments that need response as what was just cited on the live chat. All right, so Bethune-Cookman next. I don't know that we can glean much from that performance unless it's awful. If they beat Bethune-Cookman 38-20, that's going to be rather disappointment. But if as they typically do. I don't know that I'm just making the point. I don't know that we can get much out of that. Somebody like you can possibly, but then I need to look at the schedule to see who comes up next.
Central Michigan.
Okay.
But in 2017, Miami only beat Bethune 41-13. And 2017. That was not a good game. That game was close into the fourth quarter. Played starters a long time. Manny Diaz even cited it. He said, look, that was probably one of the worst defensive performances that we've had in his time here, because that was their first year, Diaz and Richt, on the coaching staff. So, I think the Bethune-Cookman they're a decent little squad. They do have some guys who transferred from FBS schools and whatnot. They're one of the better, HBCUs, FCS kind of teams. But you cannot really – we're going to win, clearly. Like, I'm going back and I'm nitpicking over an 28-point win, excuse me. So we beat them by 4 touchdowns. But that should have been 7 or 8 touchdowns. You know what I mean? So, we do need to just go out and execute our jobs. Get those guys on the ground on defense, really find some explosive plays on offense, and really, start to spin things forward. So really, you shouldn't have to dig too deep into the playbook, really work on the foundation, on your staples and things. And then you have Central Michigan coming in the week after that with the shark lover Jim McElwain now as their head coach up there, and a bunch of guys from South Florida, including Daniel Richardson, quarterback, He transferred. He went to Booker T and ended up at Carroll City. But he's like a 5'10" quarterback who's up there in Central Michigan. Brian Edwards, who I know from my time at Miramar, and he was at Florida. He transferred up there to Mount Pleasant in Central Michigan, which is like square in the middle of the state. Like it's in the middle. It's right there. But he lost his case for immediate eligibility, so he won't play, Brian Edwards. But there's a lot of guys from South Florida here on that roster, so that should be easy. Get back to 2-2 before a bye week, before you really get into the teeth of the ACC schedule. But really still just gotta iron out the kinks and everything, and you want to see increasing performance. You want it to be that parabola or that graph that's increasing at an increasing rate. So it goes like this, and then all of a sudden, it takes off like a rocket. I cited what was that, Algebra 2 there? You're welcome. But you want to see those kind of things happen. So again, it should be easy. The next 2 weeks, you should be able to extend the rotations, get some guys who have gotten limited snaps or no snaps into the game, and just move forward.
Did you happen to catch the Central Michigan performance? Of course, you didn't watch the game, but did you see the final score against Wisconsin last week?
Oh, yeah. Wisconsin just scored again. Was it like 93-0 or something like that?
61. Yeah.
61. Yeah. I know they've scored like 150 points or 120.
61-0, 49-0 against South Florida. So 110.
Oh, it was only 110. Oh, I thought it was more than that. Okay, but yeah, Wisconsin.
Maryland might be coming to mind. They put up 63 against Syracuse and 79 against Howard. I saw the nugget on Maryland is that they've scored the 3rd most points in history through 2 games during the Poll era, 1936.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
that is a lot. Virginia Tech after that back into ACC play, and you got to think that would be close to a must-win. Not necessarily a must-win. 6-2 should win the division, but
it could. But honestly, at this point, again, I did predict 10-2 with losing to Florida and a game we shouldn't lose along the way. If we run 10 in a row, then I'm 100% right again. But I think that really, Virginia Tech, they're going to be tough, but I think we should win that one. That Virginia game on October 11th, that really comes down to be the Coastal Division Championship game pretty early in the season. So, just got to really, really hunker down and get back to basics because, you can't have any more. I don't want to hear any more close losses or anything. Again, 9-3 to me is still not good enough, especially with the schedule, man. I think we really need 10 wins, honestly, and especially to get the momentum in recruiting, especially with the guys that we're going after, man. You got to really push for it. So I know that, some of the players and coaches are talking about, I support this team. I'm here for this team. I'm here for this team. I'm so here for this team that I think that a game with almost a 70% win percentage post-game, we should have won, which is, it was 69. Nice. At North Carolina. So we should have won that game 7 times out of 10. But we found one of the 3, and we put together that special concoction to find a loss. You can't have that anymore. So the training wheels, Manny Diaz, they're off. that whole awesome, welcome back, that new energy, the new Miami. First of all, I don't want to hear anything about the new Miami because this is the same as about the old Miami, finding ways to lose games that you should have otherwise won. Look, we got to start. We got to start now. Period.
Good talk from Cam Underwood from State of the U. Want to remind everyone that we're here every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Whatever you miss, you catch on the video once it posts, which will be in just a few minutes. Anything that I miss in the live chat, please understand there are hundreds, if not thousands, of comments. Try to get to the ones that seem to be meaningful and poignant. If anybody contributed in the live chat and I missed that to the super chat, in fact, I apologize for that, but don't think I did. And understand also that if I miss your comment or I scroll by the comments, that the ones that I can take to the screen, I can only take a certain amount of those, and I can only go back 10 or 15 comments. So if I miss it, I can't retrieve it. All right, we will analyze the Bethune-Cookman performance, look ahead to Central Michigan. More than that, just basically the status of Miami football, how the team looks, and what's going to possibly be the push towards the Virginia Tech stretch. That's pretty important right there.
All that is we know where we will reconvene next week. So again, appreciate you guys watching. On all social media, we're at The State of the U. That's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The website is stateoftheu.com. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports. Follow us there. We have a bunch of stuff going up every day. Even when we lose, we're there because we're Hurricanes through and through. See you next time. Peace.
Don't kill me, please. I'm just a vibe. Before we head off, it is not my intent to miss anybody's super chat contribution. I scrolled all over the place. I couldn't find it. So, Uncle Lou, we appreciate you. You know that. So, unfortunately, I was not able to catch up with that. Still can't find it. So, again, I only got a block of about this much. And if I miss it, I can't go back. Miami, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Bring your friends in. We've got to raise these views totals. Let's do that starting next week right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cam, you have a great weekend. Enjoy the game.
All right, you guys do the same. We'll catch up with you next week.
Ohio State, 9 o'clock right now.
See you.